Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we are going to talk all about how to progress exercises strategically. This is going to be really helpful whether you are someone who has full access to a gym or just a few pieces of equipment at home. I picked a few exercises, I picked a few different ways you could progress them, but know that there's endless ways to progress exercises. Hopefully this video just gives you a little more creativity outside of do more sets, do more reps, add more weight. So that being said, let's jump into it. So first exercise we're going to talk about is the squat. So let's talk about the first one. This is kind of the basic where I start most people, a goblet squat. You can use a kettlebell or dumbbell for this, but goblet simply means that it is held in at your chest. We want elbows in, weight off of the chest so that you can load your core more, and then feet in that squatting position. From here, we're going to take a big inhale down. Exhale, press the floor away. So in a goblet position, you're going to feel a lot of core, you're going to feel a lot of lats, and then obviously the lower body that's doing the squat. Once you have progressed with your goblet position, I would recommend moving into a front rack. So now you're going to grab two weights. We bring them up on the shoulders. And now we're loading the weight a little bit more directly over the body rather than in front. So it's going to be less work on your core, kind of, because we're loading the weight more directly over the legs or over the lower body. So that'd be the next way that I would progress that exercise. Now let's say you've maxed out your weight with your front squats or your goblet squat, or you're just looking for something a little bit different. I would recommend an offset squat. So in this position, you're gonna grab one weight and you're gonna rack it offset or on one side of your body. We'll turn this way for this one. So as I'm squatting down, my line of pull is going to be here. So my body is going to want to laterally flex as this weight is loading one side. So my job here is to resist it. So not only do I have to go through my squat mechanics, now I'm really going to be using my obliques to resist that crunch to the side. So that is just one way that I like to progress people through squats. All right, next exercise we're moving through is a plank. We're going to specifically start with a forearm plank. I find that people tend to get less wrist irritation and more activation to their core this way. So I'm actually going to start people down on the knees here. In this position, I want you to parallel your arms, press the floor away, and pinch your shoulder blades together. From here, make sure that your hips are lifted and tucked under. The next added spice, pinch the floor between your elbows and knees. You should start to feel your core engage. From here, lift the knees up and keep a soft bend in them so that we don't lock out into the quad. That's going to be level one. Now, if we think about what a plank is, it's an anti-extension exercise, meaning that you're trying to resist extending your spine. Great. So how do we progress that? Obviously, you can just hold it for more time. I personally think that's kind of a waste of your time, and there's better ways to do it. So the next progression, I'm going to teach someone an extended plank. So we're going to set up in the exact same way, but then you're simply going to walk back a step. This is extending your position, extending your lever. So you're going to feel a lot more work on those low abdominals, and it's going to be a lot harder to resist collapsing your body down to the floor. Once we've made our way really comfortably into 30 to 45 seconds of that extended plank, I'm going to start to move the position. Can people get in and out of it? And we're going to do that with a stability ball. Editing Justina is either going to put up a video that doesn't exist of her doing this exercise that I've done by the time I edit this, or I'm going to show you a generic clip that I found on YouTube. For clarity, it's not that I can't do the exercise, it's because I don't own a stability ball. Here's a generic clip from YouTube. So essentially what you're doing here is moving from a tall kneeling position into an elevated plank or an incline plank. Isometrics or holding a position is typically going to be the best first step for most people. And then to progress it, you want to move people in and out of it. Can they replicate the position over and over? And then finally, I do have this one to demonstrate. We started on the stability ball. You can get lower and lower until you have an ab wheel. So this is basically going to make a longer lever. These are absolutely brutal. We're going to start with it right underneath the shoulders. Big inhale out. Exhale back in. So as we're coming back in, we want to think of using the lats to pull the arms in and keeping those hips tucked under to avoid that extension movement in the spine. All right, we're going to stay on the floor for a little chest press action. I'm sure that someone in the comments is going to be like,
that's a floor press, not a chest press.
I don't care. I don't feel like getting my bench. For anybody wondering who doesn't have a snarky comment to write, the big difference between a floor press and a chest press, which is on a bench, is that you are going to have less range of motion on the floor simply because the floor gets in your way, so you can't get those weights all the way down to your chest. Doesn't mean it's a worse exercise, just means you have less range of motion. Let's do it. So the baseline here is going to be a good old-fashioned chest press. Big inhale down, exhale up. Next way that I'm gonna progress this is by doing alternating. So I'm gonna bring one arm down and up. Other arm down and up. So you're essentially increasing the time under tension here. With that alternating chest press, if you really want to progress it, you can actually protract your shoulders forward, creating more space in the chest. And see, I'm kind of reaching that other arm forward as I bring the weight down. So that's kind of like a progression part B. And then the final progression is going to be a single arm chest press. So to get into this guy, I actually like to lay next to the weight, fetal position, big inhale, exhale, bring it up, make sure you're secure on the floor, inhale down, exhale up. This is gonna challenge your stability in your shoulder as well as in your core because you're gonna wanna roll to the side. There are obviously other ways to progress all of the exercises we've talked about, but especially a chest press. Another direction you could go would be changing the incline of it, right? Doing a flat, doing an incline, doing a decline. I don't think I ever see people doing decline, but I guess you could. So remember that this is not the only way. This is just an option that you can think about if it suits your goals and the equipment you have access to. All right, and then last exercise is a little bit more random, a little bit of a wild card. We're gonna talk about pogos. So pogos are small jumps in place. I've been implementing them more as I have been prepping to run this 5K that I do every Thanksgiving that I have not been training for, but I'm trying to make sure that my calves, that my feet are nice and healthy and ready to take the impact of running. So baseline for pogos, we want to think about soft landings and keeping your feet like flaccid. Can I say that on the internet? And the momentum is up. So I'm going to use my arms to kind of scoop the air and think up, up. So what that looks like, that's pogo. I hope I was in frame. That's gonna be a great starting place for pretty much everybody, and those are already challenging. Keeping in mind that there are 1,000 ways to progress these, and these also kind of depend on what your goals are. I'm gonna give you a fun little progression that we're also gonna be doing in one of my strength programs next month in the Fit Club. Let's do it. You're gonna travel them. They're gonna move front. So I always want you to start it in place, and then we're gonna move. The tricky part about moving these is that you're gonna wanna get from point A to point B as fast as possible. I want you to resist that. Remember what your why is, up. As you get more practice, you're gonna be able to propel up and forward with a little bit more ease. Next progression, we're gonna go backwards. So same thing, you always wanna start it in place, and then move. I actually think backwards is easier, but I think it's just me. And then finally, the progression that I'm gonna show you today is just a single leg. What I typically like to start people with is 2, and then transition. You can see I'm not very good at that. Let's switch to this camera for the outro. This is the fancy camera. It doesn't have as wide of a lens as the other guy, so I don't typically like to use it in this room. No one cares. Hopefully this video was informative. Hopefully it just gave you some different creative ideas of how to progress different exercises if you don't want to add more weight or if you just don't have access to more weight. If you have a question about any other exercise I did not cover today and how I would approach progressing it with your goals, drop it in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and I will see you all in the next one.